African diaspora has long played a vital role in supporting families back home. Today, this engagement is evolving as more members of the diaspora shift their focus from sending money to making long-term investments. However, investing back home isn't always straightforward, from navigating complex regulations to building trustworthy relationships. Members of the diaspora often face unique challenges. Hello everyone and welcome to Our Voices. I am Ginny Niwa, joined by my co-host Auriane Itangishaka and Simegnish Yekoye. Well, in this episode, we'll explore how Africans in the diaspora can find opportunities back home for financial success. We'll also discuss some of the challenges they encounter and how innovative platforms are helping bridge the gap. Hello, hello, ladies.
Hello.
So tell me, what comes to mind when you think about investing back home? Do you feel comfortable? Is that something that you can see yourself do, knowing that you cannot go there often and, you know, you have to trust regulations back there?
Yeah. Would I consider it?
Yes.
Yes, definitely. Okay. I'll consider it because I feel like living in the diaspora, living in the US, in Europe and other continents, it gives us, vast amount of opportunities, and we can leverage on the skills, the knowledge and the networks we gain through these opportunities to contribute to the continent. Yeah. When I was researching for this show, I saw somewhere that there are more than 200 million African descent living outside the continent. Okay. That number might be, more or less, but imagine the amount of potential that lies behind this number. If we were all going to give back or to contribute on the continent, how much that will make a difference for the continent. When it comes to the trust and safety you mentioned, like any other business, like any other investment you would do anywhere in any continent, there is risk, right? There are risks you will have to calculate. But I think growing up in a culture and having someone you trust, your family members, close family members, I think that's an advantage to help us maneuver through the regulations, the cultural bureaucracies, and so on. And I see it more as an advantage or as an opportunity. So definitely I'll consider it.
Yeah, I would also definitely consider investing back home. And I think a lot of diaspora have made a lot of mistakes in the past by just building a $300,000 house back home that just collects dust and collects, nothing. And you realize that, why did I do that? I was living this dream where I'm going to go back home and I'm going to live in this beautiful house and live the lifestyle that I live in America. And then you realize that, you know what? I use my sweat and tears to go just build a house to live in that's not generating any income. So a lot of us, I think, are thinking about investing into something that's going to be an income generator. I think one of the mistakes that some of the diaspora do is to think that you can just send your money and somebody just takes care of everything and then you have your business running. And then you only go once a year. No, I think that when we do actually make the decision, we really need to think about the investment that we are putting down and go as often as we can to make sure that everything is running as smoothly as we want it. Because you're putting your money there. So you have to at least travel at least 3 or 4 times a year to make sure that your money is...
That's a very important point that you say is I think there is a switch between having ownership, that was the first focus from, one generation, to now realizing, yes,
another thing is that I realize that the continent expects us to come back and bring whatever we have learned from the West back home. And I think that's fair because like she said, Lily said, the opportunities are immense.
Yes, and that doesn't mean only, giving remittance. Remittance is important, but that's not investment. That's not going to translate into knowledge or skill transfer.
Right.
So it's important to invest, and probably from this show, we learn on what kind of investment, what's going to be really...
We definitely need that. I did buy some land. Me investing in DRC, I did it while, the country was changing. So when I did it, there were a better trust for the diaspora to thrive. So I buy my land and I felt very proud, living in America. Oh my God, I have land in my country. But you cannot stop there. You put money, into it. So I was, I decided, let's do commercial. So you rush into doing that, and then you get more information, and you start learning, well, you know, the rent there, they're not going to pay you that much. So now you start comparing the money that I spent, you know, to want to build this.
You will never get it back.
Yes. So I definitely need, you know, some input with the guests that we're going to have, because, this is not
but, you know,
easy.
don't lose hope. Don't lose hope.
Yeah.
That's right. So let's first go to Zimbabwe, where Zimbabweans living in the diaspora have started investing back home as they prepare to return for retirement or secure assets to generate funds. Columbus Mavunga has more from Harare.
Gift Chawasarira is a Zimbabwean who for the past 24 years lives and works in South Africa's financial sector. He says he wants to expand his business ventures in Zimbabwe.
I came here to develop my country. I had fears, but those fears have been negated through the policies that the government has put in place, like the Victoria Stock Exchange where we are listing. That protects my money.
The Victoria Falls Stock Exchange, or VFX, was established in 2020 and is popular for trading in the US dollars, unlike the country's exchange, the Zimbabwe Stock Exchange, which allows trading even in volatile local currency, the ZiG. Begitemba Nkomo runs Diaspora Capital, an investment company working with Zimbabweans who live abroad who want to invest in their home country.
We are finding that the need for Zimbabweans to have a home back in Zimbabwe is probably the number one need that is there.
That's not all they want, says Nkomo. Zimbabweans of the diaspora are looking for safe investments.
We've seen value erosion 3-4 times in our generation. And we have found a way that answers that question to say, what is it that I can invest in that's not going to lose value? And it's the same old thing that our great-great-grandfathers did many, many years ago. And it is investing in cattle. We have found a way for people to invest in cattle on a short-term basis, on a medium to long-term basis, and that way we are able to preserve value, we are able to grow value. And even if there's currency changes, even if there's devaluation, the value of the cattle stays the same.
Marlon Gwadu is an economist and a senior associate at Mark and Associates based in Harare. He says Zimbabwe now offers huge investments to both local and diasporians in mining, tourism, and agriculture.
There's need for us to really have a structured investment products for diasporans. For example, the Diaspora Infrastructure Development Bond, which is tailor-made for foreign investors at the VFX in a way that protects their investment. I think it's a medium to long-term low-hanging fruit which needs to be harvested on, amongst many other opportunities for diasporans.
In some townships of Harare, houses for Zimbabweans in the diaspora are springing up, and many hope to get returns through rentals. Others plan to eventually stay in their houses when they retire and return home. Officials we reached refused to comment on diaspora investments. However, when presenting the 2025 national budget, Finance Minister Mutuli Ncube said Zimbabweans living abroad sent $1.9 billion in remittances in the first 9 months of this year. He says remittances are now expected to get to $2.49 billion by the end of 2024 and $2.51 billion in 2025. Columbus Mavunga, VOA News, Harare, Zimbabwe.
Thank you, Columbus, for the report. Joining us is Ms. Rhoda Basemera, business analyst and podcaster of Business Hub, UG, from Kampala, Uganda. She joined us via Zoom. Hello, Ms. Rhoda, and welcome.
So, thank you.
So, as an African, how do you compare investing in Africa rather than investing in the West?
To a greater extent, I find investing in Africa a bit more easy and profitable. Reason being the currency, because most of the people that work in the diaspora earn in dollars or in the foreign currency, in the euros. and they have more value. So whereas the cost of living and the standards of living are high in the diaspora, it is unlikely in Africa. So there is so much value for money in African country, irrespective of the challenges that it comes with. And then also knowing that some investments are cheaper. We have cheap labor because we have the population is big, the labor is available, so it becomes cheaper to invest in Africa than in the diaspora, irrespective of the other challenges that come along with that, especially if you're not living in Africa. But on a fair basis, I find it easy and better to invest in Africa.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rhoda. With that said, let's take a moment to hear from women in Accra, Ghana, about their experiences investing back home after living or growing up in the diaspora. We'll hear from Videte Ajorolo, founder and chief builder of Sorted Chile, Mary's Grace, real estate entrepreneur and investor, Abena Charlene, founder and CEO of Go Nails, and here is what they have to say in our Your Voice segment.
Before moving to Ghana in the year 2020, I was actually working in banking, particularly in Hong Kong. I had spent 4 years working in finance in London, moved to Hong Kong and moved to Ghana. So currently I run a business in Ghana called Sorted Chile. So we are a curated experiences company here in Ghana. We make it possible for the diaspora to explore not just Ghana, but Africa at wide. We've made it possible for the likes of Bozoma St. John, Chance the Rapper, Charlemagne the God, Earn Your Leisure to come to Ghana and really showcase this to the rest of the world, amongst many other amazing people that we call Chales. I believe the challenges I faced in terms of investing in the continent comes in 3 specific folds. The first one being the culture shock. So even though I am a Ghana girl, Ghana runs through my blood, coming here and understanding that business is not the same here as it is in the UK or in Hong Kong where I used to live. That has been pretty challenging for me. The second thing I would say is also the challenge around community building. So coming to Ghana and building that new network of people hasn't been particularly easy. Sometimes I do feel like an expat in my own home, and I think that that is the challenge that most people who have moved from whether it's the UK, US to Ghana are facing as well. And I would say finally is more of an economic challenge around currency. Sometimes the currency is fluctuating at a rate that is very, very challenging for business owners like myself. I would recommend other investors looking to come home and invest in any way, whether that's a real estate business or, supporting other businesses. As diasporans, we have certain perspectives that we can use to also build the country. And even though it's challenging, at the end of the day, this is our home and nobody is going to build our homes if not us, essentially.
Before I moved to Ghana, I was actually living in the UK. I came here with the idea to invest in accommodation. So I wanted to do like my own Airbnb. But then because I wanted to start it from scratch, I needed to buy land.
Very good.
And that's where I had to press pause and and basically slow down on the whole project because land in itself and the issues that come with it, I have to take my time with it. It's not something that I can rush. I think accommodation is great. I think what I'm learning is that what is important is who you know as well and the budget you come with. So I'm trying to network and to get to know more individuals that are trustworthy.
I was actually working for the biggest cash machine provider in the UK. So my business is called Go Nails. We specialize in pedicures, manicures. It takes hard work, dedication, and resilience. Just because the way Ghana is set up, unfortunately, it's harder to get simple tasks done. So in my opinion, I think it's the people. We as the people make it a little difficult to get things done, as work ethics in Ghana are very, very different. It's important for you to sort of adapt to the culture and find different strategies around working with Ghanaians.
Well, we heard from different African diasporas investing in Africa about their experiences and their recommendations. So, Ms. Rhoda, let's come back to you. With so many sectors Africa has to offer, how do you decide which one is best for investment?
I I would suggest that once you're deciding on which sector to invest in, first of all, look out for what incentives exist in that sector. Taking the case of Uganda, you have Uganda identifying, say, areas like tourism, where they're giving a lot of incentives, manufacturing, and then they're looking at the hospitality, the agricultural sector. So look out for which sectors are being subsidized and which tax rates are low. And the reason why you end up doing that is it saves you taxes, and then that means eventually it will give you more profit. Then look out for where you have the expertise to be able to carry out the business that you need to do. Then also consider the cost of capital, because I know, as a matter of fact, as an investor in real estate, I know that real estate is one, for me, it's usually my best investment, and encourage people to invest in, because the risks are little minimal. They're easy to manage for as long as you do your due diligence, and yet the returns are equally high. So the security in real estate is relatively high compared to the rest. So, but then it also needs a lot of capital to invest in real estate. So consider your ability, your capital ability, that is also important, and consider the security of the environment in which you're going to invest. Because
maybe and as a follow-up to what you are saying, what would be the best way to do this assignment, to do this background check, and to get this information ahead of time before investing?
I know research, there's no way around research, there's no way around it. Research in the country that you want to invest. I'll speak for a country where I come from, Uganda.
Right.
Of course, we'll have different. We have authority, Uganda Investment Authority, that is in charge of these investments. So they have websites. You have the Revenue Authority, where there is a website and they're providing all this information. They're giving you
that is
different
true.
websites where
we cannot go around the research. You're so 100% right. We have to do our research. And I do agree with you when you said we have to look at the incentives. Like, you know, there are some places where you can get free land depending on the amount of investment you have. But I want to ask, how does your platform support the diaspora to invest back home? How does it actually work?
So my platform, that is Business Hub UG, supports the diaspora by bringing this information and breaking it down for them, for the diaspora. We do have, we do a lot of discussions about business, why you want to invest in which country, Uganda in particular, because that's where we're focusing, the business opportunities in the country, where should you and where shouldn't you put your capital, what are the risks in what sector, because we know every sector has different risk challenges. We know there are people that have tried in those sectors and failed, yet there are those that have succeeded. So we bring the stories, we tell the story, we let the people tell the story of what they have done, the mistakes they could have done that you don't have to repeat, so that you are able to make up your decision. We actually also promote and showcases the businesses that are happening in the country. So for one to be able to see this, you're in the diaspora and you want to know. Then we also promote entrepreneurs, the starters, the businesses, because we want to help them understand these things and be able to navigate the challenges they face. We also get involved in discussions, like now we're having this discussion. We have policy change and improvement advocacy programs where we are focusing on helping. In our focus, we are looking at the people in the diaspora. We want them to come back, but what are we doing as a country to prepare for them?
Correct.
So we bring on our platform, we speak about what the country is doing to be able to help the people in the diaspora come back home and find comfort and find their routine to be able to get their place.
That's really great, and I do agree with coming to your platform to get all that information, because, you know, it's a world wide web of information. And I definitely would invest in Uganda because it's a big market. You know, when I come into your markets, just business everywhere, and I think there's big profit margin to be made. But we must stop right here. We would like to thank Rhoda Basemera, business analyst and podcaster of Business Hub UG, for sharing her insight with us. Thank you, Rhoda.
Welcome.
Yes. Now it's time for a short break. Coming up, we'll speak with Natasha Chiumya, founder and CEO of Diaspora Connect, and an online real estate agency that helps Zambians in the diaspora buy property back home. in a safe and reliable way. We also want to hear from you. Join us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at VOA Africa using the hashtag VOA Our Voices. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
In times of change, when the world seems uncertain, and what we hear doesn't reflect what we see, we seek the truth. When we are told only part of the story, we lose trust. In moments of crisis, our dreams, hopes, and wishes for a better tomorrow depends on a free press. At Voice of America, we bring you the stories that people take risks to see. We connect the world and unite it with truth. At Voice of America, we show you the whole picture.
You're watching VOA's Red Carpet. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Thank you so much for joining us each week right here on Red Carpet. We bring you the latest in
health, wellness, sport, beauty, medical breakthroughs. Healthy Living cares about your well-being. What are the main health concerns in Africa and around the world? Find out the latest on coronavirus. Connect with our experts and ask them questions.
How long does the virus stay?
Join me, Linoch Mudu, in Washington, every week on Healthy Living, right here on VOA.
You with our voices, welcome back. Today we're discussing the power of African diaspora investment back home. Joining us is Natasha Chiumya, founder and CEO of Diaspora Connect, an online real estate agency that helps Zambians in the diaspora purchase property safely. She's joining us via Zoom from the Zambian capital, Lusaka. I felt like I pronounced your name not correctly.
Don't worry about it. You were close.
All right. So what advice would you give Zambians in the diaspora who are thinking about investing in property back home, but are unsure on where to start?
Well, first of all, thank you for inviting me onto your program. It's a real pleasure and an honor to be here today.
Thank you.
So my advice to Zambians in the diaspora is always to go for it. Make that choice, make that decision to invest back home and do it. And what I would also advise them is that they should really do their research and find credible people who can help them do it. Because unfortunately, for many of our Zambians who live abroad, they often get scammed and swindled by family and friends, which means they get their fingers burnt and they become very reluctant to buy property back home. So my advice is always to go for it and use professionals.
Okay, so Natasha, what inspired you to start the Diaspora Connect and focus on helping Zambians abroad?
Okay, so I'm actually a lawyer by profession, and I had been practicing in my firm together with my partners for a number of years. And we were doing a lot of real estate and property development work. And a lot of our clients were actually people in the diaspora. And they began to tell me stories about how difficult it was for them to buy property back home when they were living abroad. And I found this fascinating because to us, it was our bread and butter. We did that every day. So I started to talk to them to understand more about what the obstacles were. And they pointed out the challenges such as lack of information, not knowing where the opportunities were, not knowing who to trust, who was credible. And I began to see an opportunity there. And that's what prompted me to start Diaspora Connect.
Okay, well, for not just Zambians, but anybody else who wants to come and buy a property there, what would you advise them to save as a capital to begin really thinking about buying something? How much?
That is the $1 million or the million kwacha question. So it really depends on what they want. You know, property is not one thing, and I say this very often. There's so many different segments of the market. There's residential, there's commercial, there's agriculture, there's mixed use, and you know the list goes on and on. And even within those sectors, so for example, even within residential, you've got the high end, mid end, low end. So it really depends on what they're looking for. If you want to go high end, then you're looking at, you know, $500,000 to $1 million and above. If you want to go mid-market, then you could do well spending between 50 to 200,000. And then the lower end of the market, you're looking at much less than that. So it depends on what your budget is as well, what you can afford, and what you're willing to do.
Well, I think people need to start thinking about taking out that home equity loan and just doing it, because you know you just got to start somewhere.
Miss Natasha,
and also, I should just point out quickly that for us, many of the developers, because we work with property developers and we market and promote their projects. So with all the developers that we work with, they offer payment plans. So they don't expect people to just show up with a whole chunk of money. They have a deposit that you put down, and then you can pay the balance over 2, 3, even 5 years, depending on the developer. So that's what allows a lot of Zambians who live abroad to invest back home.
Wow.
Wow, now I'm inspired.
I want to invest in Zambia. Thank you, Ms. Natasha. Thank you. Those were great insight. This is where we conclude our show. We'd like to thank our guests, Ms. Rhoda Basemera and Ms. Natasha Chiumya, for sharing their insight with us today. Be sure to go to our website at voaafrica.com and our YouTube channel to watch this and other episodes of Our Voices and catch up on the latest news stories from around the world. We'll see you next week with another exciting program. Until then, keep believing in the power of the diaspora to contribute to the development of their home countries. Thank you for tuning in.